Well, welcome and good morning. I appreciate you joining. And this is our Q2 2021 State of the Marketing Industry Report. And I'm excited to jump into this. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting things, a lot of interesting movement in the world of marketing. And as we go, if there's anything for further discussion, we can always dive into it further. But let's jump into this and look at what our agenda is. I'm going to talk about several key areas of marketing and how it is transpiring in the world today. So first is advertising, the many changes there. Then we'll look at some of the advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality. We will touch on analytics and e-commerce, marketing technology, closing out with some digital privacy news to follow up on last quarter's in-depth privacy review and a note on social media as well. And first, jumping into some of the elements of advertising here, we begin with YouTube Select, which is a sponsorship opportunity essentially that Google is expanding. And it's a way for brands to connect with influencers in a way to create content and do it in such a way that it is aligned to the brand, but also something that isn't just an advertisement just to put a message in front of someone, but it's telling a deeper story and it's creating a deep connection. Primarily, the focus here is not on YouTube Select being something brand new. They've had 2 seasons of the NFL Game Day Pass that has been sponsored, and it's going to continue. But beyond that, they're looking at more ways to be culturally relevant and continue on that trend of how can we integrate brands with content creation and do it in creative ways. And so some of that is going to be seasonal and different events and cultural, historical dates and so on. Mother's Day, having content specially curated and created for that. Women's History Month, and so on. And in the last quarterly State of the Marketing Industry Report, we talked about a bit on the rise of connected TV and how that has grown exponentially in the last year. And a lot of that is based on lockdown and people being at home and having that device available, and the growth of smart TVs being kind of the norm, the growth of devices being connected that allow the YouTube app to exist, whether that is a gaming console or a media streaming device or so on. So there's a lot moving here. There's that device usage and the consumer habits changing, and now more ways to get creative and integrated with the content. And this is exciting from a marketer's perspective because it shows a more creative use of content, a way to develop something that is more in-depth and story-driven, and a new way to reach people in a way that you get beyond a short message and more finely in tune with who they are and what is going on in the culture. So very cool to see YouTube expanding in that realm. There's also the expansion of apps. Mobile apps continue to ebb and flow, in my opinion, in popularity in the market. And sometimes they are becoming a hot topic and sometimes not, but mobile devices are here to stay. Mobile apps are part of them and a core, and they've changed forms in different ways over the years, over the last decade. But nonetheless, apps are a primary channel at this point, and the mobile experiences. So Google's expanding their app campaigns, and in that way, they're expanding search results on desktop devices and with Google Display Network. So if you are on your computer and you do a search, it will now present an app that might be relevant to you. And when you click to it, it brings you to the App Store, which then has a click to install, and it sends the app to your mobile phone. So that's something I've experienced firsthand before, and it's very cool to see. And now you can put an advertising campaign behind that, which is pretty great as well. And on top of that, Google Analytics is going to let you create events for tracking, like purchases directly within Analytics. So when there's those events happening in the app, you can then see it within the analytics itself. And the big thing here is that there's no extra coding required. They're going code free. And this is another trend to pay attention to, because coding is a growing and important field. And at the same time, it is very much complex, especially if you are not familiar with coding in any way. So a lot of coding now is how can we make things code free for others, right? And that's exactly what they're trying to do here with Google Analytics. And there's a bunch more Google announced in relation to this with mobile apps, the Deep Link Validator tool, the Deep Link Impact Calculator, these different tools to help understand how to link within apps beyond just the app itself, but to a certain page within the app, let's say. So, what do you pay attention to here? How do apps fit into your business? For larger corporations, for the Fortune 100, obviously there is a large enough market there for many of them that are consumer facing in particular, that mobile apps make sense. For a small business, I think still it doesn't make sense many times, but there are unique cases as well, of course. The no-code trend is pretty impressive and something to pay attention to, because we're going to be able to do a lot more and automate a lot more without having to learn coding ourselves. So a lot going on there in the mobile advertising and the mobile marketing space. Next is with LinkedIn. So this is exciting. LinkedIn is elevating their advertising platform, which I think is exciting because it is needed, because there's so much potential, but unrealized right now, in my opinion. And they're doing this with event ads and boosted posts. Now, I always recommend avoiding boosting posts. It's usually talked about related to Facebook or Instagram. Now it's on LinkedIn. There's a button, you can boost it. You can get it out to more people very easily. Usually easy and non-comprehensive and not part of a overall campaign, but just a quick and easy effort. Doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But what I'm looking at is LinkedIn is making those efforts. LinkedIn has an eye on their advertising platform, and that makes sense. But it's also good to actually see that things are coming to fruition. For a marketer or someone in the marketing business, this also helps to spread awareness of LinkedIn ads as a channel to clients. So as they are more familiar with boosting posts being an option, they're going to say, oh, there must be more, or there must be a way that an agency can help me and a consultant can help me on this. So that's a wonderful thing to get conversations going, at least. Do we use boost posts? Probably not. We'll see how it functions, but probably not. But it's there and it's making some movement. Then event ads I am a bit more fond of. And event ads are a way to display event information, the date, the time, the location, in a more prominent way in the advertisement itself. So people don't have to fish for the information. It is clearly an event as well, which makes it stand out a little bit more itself. And I think that will be really great for those who do have events to promote. And a final note, they also have live streaming on LinkedIn now. And it's a beta program. You can apply to be accepted. I applied, I was accepted the next day. So it looks like it's a pretty smooth process to get onto it. But they're now integrated with Zoom, with WebEx, now or soon with Microsoft Teams as well. So you can present, you can stream live across LinkedIn. And this is another great way to tap into LinkedIn, which I think has a lot of potential, because they have done a very good job at being the professional network, but also being social and friendly enough and fun enough still that there can be life there. Because at a time in the past, if you remember many years ago, LinkedIn had very little life. It was just connecting with people, maybe direct messaging. There's a lot of struggles with LinkedIn still, but that is something to pay attention to. This expansion in ads and the content creation, the organic content itself with live streaming. Now, Google Ads Insights is another thing I want to touch on. And this was launched globally in 2021. And it's a way that Google can give you personalized insights on your advertising campaigns with them. Here's the thing. One of the reasons I want to talk about this is anytime an advertisement platform is telling you, here's more ways that you can spend your money with us, there might be a bias there. They might be pushing their tools that make it easier to spend money. They might be choosing their ways to make it easier for you to spend your money. There might also be brilliant ideas that they offer you. So my take is check the insights page out, look at it, look at the recommendations, but do your due diligence to figure out, is this something I really want to implement or not? Is this really going to be something that will benefit me? How can I experiment and test this in a scientific way to figure out if it actually is going to be helpful? And then determine, should I implement it? How, when, and then proceed. Don't just take blindly whatever those insights are. But it's another tool, and it could give you some good ideas. So at least explore it. Likewise, Google local service ads have been released, and this rolled out. And this is an ad for a very specific type of business. And there's different types of real estate agents or divorce attorneys or tax prep companies and so on. And it's a way for people to connect to local professionals. And first of all, unlike search ads, these are actually a cost per lead basis. So if you want to spend $100 a lead, you can do that as opposed to figuring out I can spend $7 a click and how much does it take to turn into a lead and so on. Directly to a cost per lead basis, which is interesting from Google. They also appear above search ads. They are right up at the top. It's a very interesting angle in being so prominent and being on a cost per lead basis, but it's really cool to see. And Google's also offering the Google guarantee to back these ads. So if a customer reaches out to you through one of these ads, they book an appointment, they buy your service, and they determine your quality of service is just not there. They want a refund. Google will cover that. Depends on the region or the country. I believe in the United States, they cover up to $2,000, and they'll give that directly to the customer. It's not guaranteed it's going to happen, but there is a chance that they will honor that guarantee. And there is some caveats. It can't just be a missed appointment or a canceled appointment. It can't be, I decided I didn't really want this anymore, but I already got it. It has to have a real reason, but very cool to see that Google is stepping up behind these. And we'll see how those play out. So, this is the kind of thing that if you have an eligible business, I would experiment with it. And I'm not sure what your budget should be. I would say that you want to look at it, since it's a cost per lead basis, you want to look at it as about 10 leads. 10 leads gives you a chance to determine the overall quality. Can I sell 1 in 10? And does that make it profitable? Does that make it worthwhile? Do I sell 3 out of 10? Am I 0 out of 10? Or they're all terrible quality? There's going to be some range, I am sure, but that is a safe way to just test the waters and get started there. You can try testing more. I wouldn't necessarily bother testing less. Commit to at least 10 leads there. Performance max campaigns. This is something kind of similar to the old Google Ad Smart campaigns. It is an automated way to run advertising with Google, and it is a responsive way as well. So you can go through all the Google ad formats, YouTube, display, search, discover, Gmail, maps, and a dynamic and automated campaign is developed for you from Google. You give them the assets. These are the words, and these are the images and all of that, but they will do all of the ad creation and the targeting for you. And that's a big thing. I expect that this is an experiment for Google in new ways of advertising that is a little more privacy friendly. Because if they are doing the targeting for you, then you're not really the one really finely tuning and honing in on who you're going after. And that might take away some of the privacy concerns there. It's just an algorithm. It's just the AI that's doing it on Google's side. It's not somebody, a marketer, really focusing in on a specific segment. You are mostly taken out, but you are giving signals. So you're telling Google, these are some of the in-marketing audiences, the life events, the remarketing lists, the custom audiences. Take this information and go find my market for me. And Google's not saying that's an absolute, only people who have this life event, but they use their algorithm to figure out, this is a good idea of who my market is. Let's go after it accordingly. So the other caveat, reporting is a little bit limited so far. You can't see exactly what ads are working for you, so you don't get to know what creative is performing best. You have to figure out and have faith in Google that they will figure out what that is and manage it accordingly. So that's something to be skeptical yet hopeful of. Likewise, when you have limited control and you're putting your faith in the advertising platform itself, I think experimenting makes sense, not putting all your eggs in one basket. You don't get to see the demographics or the devices used in this case. You can't set exclusions. There's a few limitations there, but again, very interesting, and I would try it out. I think it's always good to have a small experimental budget in your marketing plan, so maybe that's where this goes. So that was that with advertising. Let's talk advanced technologies. And one of the new things came from IBM, and this is super interesting in advanced in artificial intelligence. For marketers, AI is used across all digital advertising platforms and social media, all of that. There's great advantages, some limitations, some challenges. One of the challenges is being able for the AI to be able to identify conversations accurately and what those conversations actually contextually mean. So this is where machine learning comes in, and it literally learns over time, and that can backfire. So IBM introduced what they called Distributional Individual Fairness, DIF. And it's a model to better train AI to have a deeper context in individual circumstances understood, as opposed to a snowball that builds up. So for example, with natural language processing, NLP, there's a struggle because there's words or identities like gay that can be interpreted as negative or toxic in nature by the AI, purely because there's unfortunately many online conversations that put gay in a negative light. There are toxic conversations that happen around people who identify as gay. And so the AI incorrectly reads that. They hear the sentence, "my best friend is gay," as toxic. So obviously an issue. With DIF, it looks at the individual situation and it learns accordingly based on that. And it removes some of those extra variables that might incorrectly teach. So my best friend is gay or my best friend is straight are both individually measured and fairly determined in how they stand. And in that way, they are not held to a toxic level based on the real context around it. So this is a way that AI is expanding, it is improving, and this won't just help us in marketing, but it will. It'll help us in advertising, it'll help us on social media, but all the other ways that artificial intelligence will be integrated into our lives, this is also going to help. So it's just important to keep your finger on the pulse, seeing where some of these advanced technologies are going, and that kind of model approach to improve AI and improve machine learning is a major step forward. Analytics, I have a quick one for you. Facebook Analytics is officially discontinued. Just an FYI, if you have used it in the past, they had a nice looking dashboard, but when you have Google Analytics, it wasn't super necessary either, but it is now gone. So if you had been using Facebook Analytics, it is officially done. Moving on, e-commerce. What's in store? Well, we know e-commerce exploded over the last year. Shopify is a major leader in that space. They have about 23% of the market share, I believe. And the big news is that Google has integrated with Shopify, so there's a very simple way to get your product inventory live on Google now. And this, along with streamlined payment options, is a major step forward. So many online shops are out there, online stores on Shopify, and this is a channel to get them out there and be on the major search platform of Google, and also compete with a major product search engine and marketplace of Amazon. And you guessed it, WooCommerce has just done the same as well. So WooCommerce is an e-commerce tool for WordPress websites. It actually takes up a little bit more of the market share of online stores out there. About 29%, I believe, was the number compared to Shopify's 23%. Combined, that's 49% of the market on those two platforms, and they are now integrated with Google very seamlessly. Other platforms are doing the same. So Google is clearly making a major step forward to how do we make it easier to buy from Google, from Google Shopping in particular. So really great to see for those independent e-commerce shops, especially those that are strongly competing with Amazon. Onto some notes on marketing technology. There's a new destination for creative and media collaboration, and that is Ads Creative Studio. And this is something offered in the 360 marketing platform with Google. So if you have assets on YouTube and display, video, campaign manager, it can all be collected here. And this is a way to organize teams around creative. It's an enterprise tool, so you're not going to use it for the most common small business, but in larger enterprises that have the Marketing 360 platform, this should be a major step forward in just staying organized and getting teams to work together effectively. And Zoom announced Zoom Events. It's an all-in-one platform for virtual events, and it's combining meetings and chat and webinars into a unique solution that also has ticketing and billing, event access, registration, attendance, and the analytics to go along with that. And in a similar fashion to Zoom's core business, they have a platform here that should be serving both the small events as well as the larger conferences and trying to span that overall market. And with the large infusion of attention and subscribers that Zoom has had over the last year, the last 16 months, it's kind of surprising that this didn't happen sooner. It took this long to have an events platform with Zoom, but it is here. And so I'm going to keep an eye on this, see how it is in the events platform space. But if you are in the event marketing world in any capacity, this is something that you probably want to keep an eye on as well. Now onto the big topic of privacy. Google Consent Mode is here, and that is a way to allow you to adjust how Google tags behave based on the consent status of visitors. So if they say they consent to tracking or not, then you can have the analytics and the ads cookies adjust accordingly. And this is helpful in this privacy-forward, privacy-centric movement, and particularly integrating with Google Ads and Google Analytics. And the best part is it's built into Google Tag Manager now, so you can set this up relatively easily. You don't need to be super tech savvy or programming focused to do that. And it's accessible enough. So there's instructions from Google to follow. It is reachable, and continued effort towards improving privacy overall going forward. And last quarter, we talked about privacy first web advertising from Google. And there's a quick measurement update just to touch on. And this is really speaking to how do we improve measurement where there's still a privacy first element, but we're not losing out as marketers either. So the quick and dirty of this, because it gets a bit technical, is that it's really centered around an API being able to report at both the event level and through aggregated information. The aggregated information helps to provide some privacy. It's a very high level view of campaign performance, looking at the totals, where event level is a little bit more granular, deciding how to make very finite decisions like bidding, for example. So the long and short of this is there's continued progress. There's going to be continued progress. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of how to implement these things, but there's always these new proposals coming out now of here's how things might shape up in the future. TikTok is back in the news, and again, a privacy concern. And in this way, that is a £1 billion lawsuit because this is UK driven. And apparently the app or its parent company, however you look at it, for the last 3 years has been collecting information, collecting data on children using the app. That's anyone under 18 years old. And it could be telephone numbers, videos, pictures, location, biometric data. There's a lot of concern there, and people have always been concerned about TikTok and data collection. It's been a hot topic, and now this is really bringing to light a major concern because we talked about last quarter as well, Instagram for kids as a potential app that's coming out. Part of that is not tracking and providing that privacy, and TikTok is looking like it's going in the opposite direction and tossing privacy aside. So not a good look for them. Will it affect the app use overall? I wouldn't suspect so, but it keeps them in the news in a negative light, and that can attract some issues with regulations. And that's what I would pay attention to over consumer behavior changes. And Amazon's Sidewalk is something you may have heard of. It is a mesh wireless network. So you're sharing wireless networks with your neighbors or neighbors' devices, really. So that is something that really got in the news because it's enabled by default. You have to go in and opt out of this. Otherwise, it just happens all of a sudden with your devices. So if you have an Echo or some kind of Amazon device, it will share your Wi-Fi to whatever range it can reach with your neighbors and vice versa if they have devices. Now, you can argue there's some benefit to this, but I think the concern is on that privacy, that decision to make it enabled by default. And so you're sharing your Wi-Fi, and a prime use of this is with like Amazon's Tile devices, which helps you maybe attach it to keys. You lose your keys, the Tile can be found through that Wi-Fi connection. If your neighbor's Wi-Fi is shared to that device, that Tile, then you feasibly get much more range. And so that can help in those situations. But likewise, it's something very curious about where that goes. And it's not directly related to marketing, but it is directly related to privacy, which affects us a great deal in marketing right now. So it's something to pay attention to as well. And on social media, I just need to share that finally Clubhouse released an Android app. And we talked about last quarter, candidly seeming shocked it was taking so long, more than a year of just having the iOS app. But it's been released. It is US only. Unclear when it's going to expand beyond that. But nonetheless, people are getting onto the platform. And today it has over 5 million downloads on the Google Play Store, which is pretty impressive for US alone. And certainly something for us to keep on our radar. Continue to see how does this expand, and is it still hanging around, and how strong is it a year from now? But as an audio-based, different type of social network, it's certainly something interesting to be mindful of. So what do you need to leave with today? Some high-level notes here. On advertising, LinkedIn is fortunately expanding their advertising platform. It's no comparison to Google's leaps ahead. It's something. On Google's side, the enterprise, the 360 right down to local service ads, there's a lot in motion, and a lot of it is likely inspired by the changes in digital privacy. On artificial intelligence, there's more advances in how AI and machine learning works, and that sheds light on what is ahead. So that's something that's going to affect all of our lives, personally and professionally. On analytics, so long Facebook analytics. Moving on. On e-commerce, along with the explosion of online shopping in the last year, Google is really closely integrating with different platforms like Shopify and WooCommerce, which together make up 49% of e-commerce platforms in the United States. Major move ahead for online shops. On marketing technology, we're seeing simpler collaboration, popular theme today, and Zoom's event platform launch, something to pay attention to in the event marketing space. On digital privacy, there's many moving parts, of course. Amazon's continuing to spur anxiety. TikTok follows suit there. Our main focus on privacy comes back to Google. They have consent mode to dynamically respond, and they're continuing to pave a future for what privacy-first tracking might look like in the future. And on social media, Clubhouse is finally out on Android. That's another 42% of the US market. To go on to the 50-something% of iOS devices, so nearly doubling their potential reach. There has to be some potential there, but let's see where that goes in months and years ahead. So I'd just like to invite you to stay connected. You can join my monthly mini MBA memo. Go to davidbradleymba.com/newsletter. You can sign up there. Once a month at the start of the month, you get a newsletter with some of my takes on actionable business and marketing insights delivered directly to you. And check out our marketing education programs at thebbg.com. If you're looking to run a marketing business and improve your marketing skills, there is more to be found there. So with that, I would like to thank you for your time today. Thank you for attending, and please share in the comments if there are any thoughts that you have, anything you would like to discuss further, any insights, anything else you would add to that has come up in the last 3 months. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you, and have a great day.